on this Friday in Greater West Bloomfield, and the day after the kickoff of the West Bloomfield Lakers high school football team's regular season. Matt Catoni, our color commentator and sports reporter with Civic Center TV, joins me now to talk about tonight's game. Matt, we'll get to our analysis in just a little bit, but first we have highlights from last night's game. Let's take a look at the Lakers' first performance against Chippewa Valley. The Lakers coming in ranked number 2 in the preseason rankings by State Champs Network, with the Big Reds in the middle of the pack at 16, looking to make an early jump on a D1 contender. The L-Boys and Big Reds sharing blows for the first 6 minutes. Then it's senior quarterback Andrew Schuster flipping it to Jordan Byers for the first down and more. That set up a quick dash into pay dirt for Cash Shaw for the opening score. Big Reds up 7-0. But here come the Lakers with a couple minutes left in the first. Rick Nance out to Elijah Durham with the catch and the yaction, advancing the ball all the way down to the 2-yard line, where Brody Pecor would power it in to even the score at 7. Elijah Durham wasn't done, though. A few minutes later, his senior quarterback Rick Nance calls his final cannonball of the summer, striking Durham for a 35-yard tutty and an L-Boys lead. But the Big Reds fighting back. The Lakers take over with about 4 minutes in the half, and on second down, Rick Nance floats like a butterfly but stings like a bee, intercepted by Preston Roberts. That sets up the final drive of the half, complete with a 2-yard cha-ching for senior Cash Shaw. Lakers and Big Reds tied at 14 at the end of the half. Chippewa Valley and WB each holding themselves back in the third quarter. No scores and penalties throughout leaves it tied at 14 going into the fourth. Then the Reds, holding the ball throughout most of the fourth quarter, got it down to just a few remaining. First and goal, and a huge stop for the Lakers at their 1-yard line. Then second and goal, 1 yard from the score, but Nigel Dunton says no way, drawing the Reds back to the 3-yard line. Third and goal, however, Andrew Schuster coming up big, the southpaw connecting for the lead with Deshaun Lanier. Lakers down 7 with about 3 minutes to go. The Lakers get a short kickoff, but a penalty sets them back in their own territory with only 2 timeouts remaining. Lakers move the chains, and then Rick Nance moves the needle through the thread, sneaking one to Marquise Morris, putting the Lakers in Big Reds country with under a minute to go. Then clock rolling and a big play for the Lakers. Here's the call. Nance takes the snap. Looking, rolls out to his left, launches in the end zone and caught. Touchdown, WB! That is Nigel Dunton, the transfer from Southfield A&T, puts the Lakers within 1 point of tying up this game. On the game-tying PAT, Coach Hilbers reaches into his bag of tricks and calls his final timeout. That sets up a 2-point conversion attempt that goes to Brandon Davis Swain, and the Punisher delivers his first punishment of the season, punching in the game-winning score. Lakers 22, Big Reds 21. Night, a back and forth matchup. The defense is definitely on display for these two teams, man, and that's what really jumped off at first when we were watching this game together. We did a run through ourselves with our Civic Center TV team. That was not a live broadcast from our team last night, but that's what we were seeing. Two defenses that really were going toe to toe and stifling those offenses, although those both teams able to get some bit of a jump on certain drives on their other team's defense.
Yeah, at the start of the game, I really thought at first, both teams after their first or second drive started to really move the ball and scored back-to-back touchdowns. I thought, is this going to be a high-scoring matchup? But then just as quickly as the offense came, really disappeared in most of the second half, as we saw what I honestly expected from the Lakers defense to begin the game. Just dominate their side of the ball and just really keep games low-scoring and manageable for the offense. Yeah,
something to keep an eye on the offensive side of the ball is the relationship between Rick Nance and Elijah Durham. That seemed like a very dynamic duo last night throughout the majority of the football game. Tons of chunk plays, including a 35-yard touchdown to Elijah Durham in the second quarter to put the Lakers up in the lead by a score of 14-7 following the PAT. But that relationship definitely seeming like there's a lot of chemistry there, and that could be dangerous for opposing defenses all season long.
Yeah, it really stood out how often that Nance just was willing to load up and go downfield to Durham. It seems like they have a lot of chemistry together, and that's something to pay attention to later on in the season. How often and just really him and Durham are able to hook up and put points up on the board.
Yeah, Rick Nance was really impressive last night. 14 for 21 for 248 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, including an 83-yard final drive in that last 3 minutes and 21 seconds. And for the most part, making really great decisions and some very impressive passes. But credit to that receiving core, too. A younger receiving core this year coming back, and guys down the depth chart a little bit, like Marquise Morris also having a big game.
Yeah. You saw Nigel Dunton also step up in the end and make some very timely receptions, but also Nance did a good job of also shouldering a lot of the responsibility in the run game. He had some good runs, but also just runs that kept drives going, just picked up a little of the yards that were not necessarily a lot available to him, but he just picked up what was there and kept the ball moving forward.
Yeah, and the run game, a little bit stifled for the Lakers. That's more of a credit to the defensive line, that defensive front of the Chippewa Valley Big Reds in this game, because when we saw passing plays come into play, a younger offensive line was a concern going into the season. It's something that I expressed as a concern, was a younger offensive line, but making great pockets for Rick Nance and able to set him up to be able to make quick decisions or make long-term decisions and go down the field. And that set up those opportunities with guys like Elijah Durham and Jaden Allos and Marquise Morris making big plays all throughout the ball game. But we can't talk about this Lakers team without the performance of that defense as well. The secondary, excellent throughout the night, with multiple shutdowns in the passing game from Jameer Benjamin and Bryce Rowe, both of whom are going to D1 schools next fall.
Yeah, the Lakers defense last night was incredibly dominant. The only thing that they really need to clean up on is just finishing tackles. There were occasionally times that they were arm tackling, and then runs just got extended to the second level, whereas if they clean that up later on in the season, a lot of runs won't be getting past the line of scrimmage. But I feel that the linebackers, Kari Jackson and Pecor, both had just tremendous games. They were in on almost every single tackle, and it was nice to watch them swarm the ball.
Yeah, supporting tackles, too, coming throughout the game from Bryce Rowe in the secondary. Nigel Dunton also having a big game, making that big stop down inside the 5 on 2nd and goal that set back the Big Reds to their 6-yard line, but with forward progress to their 3-yard line instead of the 1. Ultimately, they scored, but those kinds of impact plays, huge for the Lakers last night. And then breaking into contain, too, that linebacking core. We were really focusing on the 2 D1 recruits in Kari Jackson and in Montel Johnson heading to Penn State and Rutgers, respectively, but Brody Pecor also having a big game on the defensive side, and a positive for the Lakers, who once again seem like they have a 3-headed monster at the linebacker position.
Yeah, again, just we spoke earlier in a lot of the offseason about how there's a lot of experience on this Lakers defense, and that's what really shined through last night. The moment was never really too big for them. They've been in a lot of big situations, a lot bigger than last night for sure. So they remained calm, and they didn't stutter step whatsoever, and the defense came up big in the end.
And what was also impressive was the coaching staff staying on their players, preaching discipline throughout the game. In fact, in the second half, something we saw pretty unconventional in a close game like this, senior head coach in West Bloomfield, that's Zach Hilbers, in his first season at the helm after 17 years as an assistant, and previously being a quarterback for the Lakers before he graduated from WB in 2003, using a timeout early on. We had talked in our run through in our mock broadcast just internally with our team about perhaps that being a factor later on in the game, but also showing some guts late in the ball game as the Lakers were able to tie the game up with less than 30 seconds to play, and ultimately not going for the PAT to tie the ball game up, but going for 2 and using that final timeout to negate the PAT setup.
Yeah, and really that was just such a great gutsy call. Ultimately gets you the win, so it looks better no matter what. But what I like most about that goal line stand at the end with the 2-point conversion, so that he even got Chippewa Valley to take one of their last 2 timeouts, which severely impacted their play calling on their last drive when they were hoping to even just maybe get into field goal range for just a last second, Hail Mary field goal attempt. So not having that last timeout was just ended up being a wonderful bonus in that situation by Hilbers.
The youth of this team was something that had been brought up particularly looking at the offense, but also something that was brought up in the special teams core and my discussions with Coach Hilber going into this season, wanting to emphasize limiting mistakes, executing to a T on each and every play, and using that immense talent that they have to set themselves up for really great plays. And part of that effort is putting some of those veteran players back on the field that maybe are usually just solely defensive players who go between the defense and special teams, like Bryce Rowe, who in the previous season had also been a punt returner and a kick returner for the Lakers. This time seeing some of those players on offense. We saw Jameer Benjamin, of course, Brandon Davis-Swain getting a lot of reps at the tight end, including that 2-point conversion that sealed the victory for the Lakers last night, also adding kind of a new wrinkle to this offense that we often have seen in the past be added later on in the season under the Bellamy and Grice administration, continuing on under Coach Hilbers.
Yeah, the Lakers are obviously going to have to deal with some offensive hiccups, replacing guys like Samaj Morgan, who just played such a key role for the offense last year. But Hilbers also spoke tremendously on a media day about how they're just going to try and get their best players in and just put them where they're going to help them. And if that just means getting them the ball, like we saw with Brandon Davis-Swain last night in the 2-point conversion, that's what it's going to mean. And that's something that I think a really, commendable quality, because at the end of the day, you want your best players with the ball.
Yeah, toughness, resilience, playing smart, and being strategic in how they moved up the field, particularly in that late game situation. That's why you schedule a game like Chippewa Valley for week number 1. You want to challenge your team early. You want to emphasize execution and discipline, and that's exactly what the Lakers did on Thursday night. Matt, your final thoughts from the first game as we head into week 2 next week. Also a Thursday matchup on the road at Birmingham Groves.
Yeah, another good test for the Lakers right here, but I think they'll be up for the challenge. The defense looked very stout, and the offense looked more in rhythm as the game went on. I think that it's going to be another one for the Lakers.
Yeah, looking like it's going to be a challenging early season for the Lakers, but that's always been proven in the past to be something that benefits them later on as they get into that OAA Red Division schedule, opening their OAA Red schedule at home against Stony Creek, and then back-to-back matchups going up against the power teams of the OAA Red Division with Clarkston, Lake Orion, Oxford, and others. And Rochester Adams and others also playing the Lakers both at home and on the road, back to back. The middle of that schedule very packed. So these early games going to be huge in making sure this team is ready for that tough competition later on in the season. Matt, thanks as always.
Yeah, thank you for having me.